Hi. Uh, so we're going to paint these blocks, and I'm ignoring the hole in the top. Okay, so what I am seeing that you will get texted to you is that this is the lightest side. This is just a shade darker here on top because I've got the light way down low. And then we've got a real good shadow over here, and then we have a diffuse shadows over here, which I'm going to sharpen up to be a little bit more graphic. All right, so I mixed this color. It is close. None of these are going to match exactly. I could probably get a little closer, but I could particularly get closer if I mixed a little white into some of these because these are painted with opaque paint. So it's going to look a little different anyway. So this is made with cerulean. A little bit of cerulean. So I should have written that the other way around. Plus cad yellow light. And I'm writing it down here so that when I photograph this, it'll be on there. So now we're looking to make a shadow. And I don't have a plan. I'm going to glaze. You're going to hear some background noise. That's a pit bull over here chewing a bone. Long story. Okay, so, here is my mixture that I painted the, let's see if this is showing. Yeah. That I painted the base with. And I could probably add just a little bit of blue into that. Oh, not much more. Oh, let's see. And I could probably glaze that on top of what I already have. This is on here a little bit thin, so even if I had just glazed another layer of color on there, it would have gotten a little bit darker. I'm doing a fairly thin glaze. Well, I think we're going to need a little more. See, here's another good use for a flat brush. If you've got a straight line, you can just bump the edge of the flat up there like that. It's actually a little easier, I think, than going at it from the side. Because I can get it where I can actually really see exactly where I am with it. Okay, so there's our side and our top. I think that's a little dark. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to pull a little bit of it up. This is one of the things you can do when you're glazing. Of course, it's going to dry a little bit lighter. I think that will make me happy. Now, the shadow side is considerably darker. So I could add some more blue to it. Okay. Would that work? I think it needs to dull down a little bit. I think I'll add just a touch of this red. I've got some cad red over here. Or it's cad scarlet. Just a little bit. Gray it down a little bit. Oh, yeah, that's working. Let's gray it just a tiny bit more. Oh. Okay. See, that grayed it down. Because remember, a shadow is not as bright. It's not as strong a color. Even though it's darker, and you need enough of your base color in it. You need to deepen that. You can't just add grays everywhere and make it work. In fact, sometimes the gray can just look dead and unreal. Well, that's not dark enough. I think it would be if it was just the mixture was stronger. So what I'm going to do here, I was hoping that this wouldn't leak over there. I was going to leave a little space, but I didn't do a good enough job. So now it's leaking onto the top. Darn it. I think that that comes pretty close. Maybe if I tilt this a little bit. Okay. And then we're going to come back and add shadows to this after it's dry. Well, I think I just underestimated it. It looked dark enough wet, but it's just really not. In fact, I don't think there's enough difference in this top. So I'm going to put some of the color that I put on the side down here on the top. We're going to get a little, oh, that just seems too heavy to me. Okay. And then I'm going to dry that. Well, oops. Okay. You can see that I messed up here. I tried to dry it in too big of a hurry. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to use this mixture on top of what I've already got. Oh, it's too blue. Now, I knew it was going to be too blue. We're going to gray it down a little bit while it's wet. You can see how I'm just working this out. I'm going to just put a little bit more red into it. Spread it around here a little bit. That grayed it quite a lot. And I happen to, which you don't know but I am going to use some reds in my shadows because I'm actually seeing reds in my shadows here. I think it's not about reflected light as much as it is probably a light source that I've got here in the room. But I think that that's going to work. All right, so I'm setting these aside for now. So this is what I've got. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Here I have cerulean. And I put a tiny bit of that yellow, the cad yellow, light, into it, just a tiny amount. And I got a color that's close to this. Again, if it had white in it, it would look more like this. So let's see. So we've got the same situation here. We've got the lightest side here. And so a little darker up here and a lot darker over here. Okay, this one should be easier than the green. I'm looking over at that green, and that green is looking monstrously dark. I may have to adjust it. Well, that'll be fine because you'll see how I adjust it. Okay, so let's get this extra yellow out of this here. That was the mixture for my green. And let's put some more cerulean in. The cerulean is a pretty opaque color. So you can see that that's not, you can see that that needed a little bit of yellow in it to look right. Okay, so I guess we should do a little bit of yellow into it. There's a little bit of cad yellow. Let's see. That should be enough. Yeah, that's plenty enough. Now I want it to, I think that if I just add another layer, because this is glazed, it's thinned down, maybe this time it'll work. But you can see that I'm finding my way with this. It's got a little extra yellow. I don't have it mixed up very well. By the way, I'm not doing white for two reasons. One, I don't think that the colors will show up that well here. But also, actually, white's a lot easier because you can, the color situation's way different. Again, that just looks too dark. But I was wrong a while ago, so we'll see. And if it's too dark, and when it gets dry, I'll just give it a little wash. Now, in this particular case, Prussian blue is very much like this color. They're really pretty close, but Prussian blue is very transparent and very dark, can be very dark. And so I could put Prussian blue into this. I'm going to leave a little gap there just so these don't run together. Okay, this looks more believable than the top. And the reason is that I got too much yellow in the color on the top. Way too much yellow. Let me just try to pull some of that up now. I get impatient. We'll see what that looks like when it's dry. I'm afraid I've got this bleeding over the edge too. I guess I'm going to have to take this one to the dryer. I just get impatient. Well, I think that's reasonably successful. The color's really not quite right. I've got too much yellow in up here, but it's not too horrible either. So, because if I hadn't gotten too much yellow in there, it would be really good. And this shadow worked really well. You can see that sometimes there's a pigment that you can just use to deepen it. Other times you've got to mix and tweak. Particularly, we're fixing to do the yellow, and the yellow is a really difficult one. The reason that the yellow is so darn difficult is because this is the cad yellow light. And being a cad yellow light, let's see if we're in the picture. Being a cad yellow light, the shadow, oh, it's just hard to get it because the shadow should be a little bit deeper yellow, but it needs to stay this kind of lemony yellow color. Working with warm yellows, I've got a whole different, reddish, a yellow with a little more red in it, like New Gamboge. I've got a whole different way of working with that than I do this. And I never use cad yellow, or not like this. And so this is really tricky for me. I happen to have this yellow-green mixture over here. And I might just put some red in that, the cad red. Let's see what we get here. That is I put too much red in it. I should have slowed down. I should have been more careful. Okay, now let's put a little more blue in it too. It's just too greenish. It's a little bit too greenish. Tell you what, I used the wrong blue. What I should have done was use some ultramarine or some indigo. Let's try a little bit of indigo, but I think I'm probably going to have to start my mixture over. I'll tell you what, let's go with ultramarine, because ultramarine is a blue that doesn't have yellow in it. So it tends not to make greens. I just got too much. You know what? I'm going to wipe this out and start over. I made this hard for myself. Let's do it this way. I keep forgetting that I've got nickel azo. Nickel azo is another one of those yellows that doesn't have much red in it. I think it's got a little more red than the cad, but not a lot. Let's put a thin glaze of that on. Well, that's kind of believable. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to glaze this same color onto the side, the dark side over here, the one you can't see. I think I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to dry this, and then I'm going to try to add more color to this side. That wouldn't be a bad way to do all of them, actually. Okay, so I'm going to go dry this. This yellow now is rich enough that I think, which you can't get this depth of color with cad yellow light, because cad yellow light is that color and it doesn't get darker. So I think that what we need to do now is just mix a gray. And what would we like to mix a gray with? Well, we could use some of this blue. You notice I tend to grab what's handy. And we could use some of this red. Here's the thing about this. This is a blue that has a lot of yellow in it. You know, it's turquoisey looking. And this is a red that has a lot of yellow in it. And so if I just mix the red and the blue together, instead of getting a purple, I get a gray, because there's enough yellow in both of them. Well, let's see what happens here if we just glaze. Oh, yeah, this is perfect. This didn't turn out to be such a problem after all. I thought this was really going to be a difficult situation. I think that looks a little dirty, a little strong, but what do I know? So last time, I thought it was too dark, and it wasn't. That's not bad. You know, I think I'll go ahead and start the shadow from this one. And this is a white surface. So shadow comes from back over there, and it could stand to have a little yellow in it. Just get my Nicolazo back out. That doesn't look bad. We could put just a touch of red in. You know, I was saying a while ago that there's red in here from the lights. So here's the thing that we're looking for. We're not just looking for realism, we're looking for pretty. Pretty is way more important than real. If it wasn't, I wouldn't wear mascara. That's not bad. That's not bad. It's a little blotchy because, you know, I keep jacking with it, and it would be better to, you know, make sure this was really dry between layers, and I didn't exactly do right that way, but that looks pretty good. Well, I'm impressed with that looks pretty good. I'm impressed with myself. Yeah. Okay. We'll set this one aside. It is just a little smudgy, though. Oh. And so now we have the orange block. You know, I kind of like what I did with the yellow in that I took that lighter shadow and went ahead and pulled it down here and dried it, and then I put a layer on there, and I thought that worked pretty well. Here is my mixture that I made the orange out of. And all it is the Cad Scarlet that, you know, that goes on this block, which you haven't seen yet, and the Cad Yellow Light. So now it just needs to deepen a little bit in this particular case, because again, it's got that Cad Yellow in it that's pretty light, and it's never going to get darker because there's a lot of white in it. I think in this particular case, and with what I'm seeing there, that I'm probably just going to add the tiniest bit of blue into it. Let's see what we get here. You know, that might just do it. See, blue and orange would be opposite each other on the color wheel, approximately opposite, because none of these pigments are dead on true blue or true orange or whatever. Shirley Nichols can tell you more about that than I can, actually. Well, that blue's interesting there. I think the color could have been a little more pure up here. I think it would have been better if I just made that orange a darker orange. Darn it. You know what? I think I'm going to blot this. Put this down here. And I'm going to dry it and see if I can't. Well, look here. That's still pulling up more than my blotting. I'm going to try to get a little bit stronger orange. This is just slightly darker than that. And although it does have a shaded effect, I think it could just stand a little stronger orange. Let's dry it and see what we can do. I have gotten these so uneven and blotchy. On the internet, no less. Okay, let's try something else. Let's take the red. Ooh, I had pre-wet that. here a while but earlier today, and so I picked up more color than I meant to. But I didn't pre-wet the nickel azo. So I'm going to try making this orange with the nickel azo. Okay, that's working, but still really reddish. I think, and maybe getting too dark, I think I'll put a little bit of cad yellow in with it. That is way, way too strong for the top here. Let's just put it over here. Let's try a little more cad yellow in it. Got to be careful not to get too much in there. And then let's thin it down. Now, I hope that you aren't trying to follow this exact formula. You can, because you can listen to it on here. But the thing is, it's about exactly how your mixture turns out, and then as you mess with it, what you choose to do. Okay, that's pretty. I may have it too weak by the time it dries. Let's put just a little more of it on. Remember, pretty is more important than real in most artwork. I think that's nice. It's not this color. I think it looks better than this color. Well, let's go ahead and pull a little bit of that into what's going to be the shadow area. So, if you were doing realism, as you get further away from the block, you're going to have less reflected light in the shadow, less color reflected into the shadow. So let's say a little stronger in here. Whoa. In here close to the block, and then as we come out this way, we'll get a lot paler. Then when I get it dry and I put some gray in there, it'll hopefully look right. That's not wanting to take color right there in that one little spot. No, it's resisting color. Okay, something on that or something. Well, we'll work around it. Okay, so let's get this dry. I wouldn't want to make that any redder, I don't think. But it's definitely got to go darker. Also, this could actually wash out a little bit. Let's try that. See, you'll notice no one of these is getting done quite the same way. It's not like I have a formula, and I'm just going by my eye. One thing, though, that would work with a formula. Let me point this out. Okay. And that is, normally that lightest area, if the light is really bright, that lightest area, oh, there, that's even shows up better color-wise. That lightest area might be weaker hue-wise. It might have less of the actual hue in it than an area like this. In this particular case, that's not true, but it frequently would be. Oh, that's a whole other story. If you have a cylinder, okay, let's see if we can do this. I don't know if I can do a quick paint with this or not. Let's see, let's just take this orange. So, the lightest part where the light's hitting it might be a weaker color. And then as the light is not blasting it out, making it weaker. This is a terrible example. And you come around the edge. Let's see. Keep that under control a little bit. The color gets richer. And then when you get into the shadow area, the color gets duller, and here, let's add a little gray in here. The color gets duller and darker. But you don't want it so dull that it loses that sense of its original color. No, I don't think I like what's happening here. This is a little bit hard to do the way I'm doing it. When do you get that a little darker? Well, kind of killing it. You should still feel the red in it. But it depends again on the situation. Is this a really bright light in a dark room? If it is, this might just almost blend into a black background or something, in which case it wouldn't be this light. But you get the idea of the shape. So the richest, let's see if I can pull a little of this up because that's bled over there. Well, I'm just messing it up terribly. But you can see that the richest part of the color, that mid-tone, is in the mid-tones. It's not in the highlight area, and it's not in the shadow area. So this is more the true color right here down the middle. Okay, so we need to shadow this some more. And I think I could get away with a little more of this red-orange in here. And if you were doing a building, let's just say it's a brick building, and so let's say it was about that color, you might not want to put your shadows in multiple layers. You might want to have a mixture that was right in the first place, which is what I'm trying to do here. So here I go again, too much blue. But see, I don't have to live with that. I can see that it's too much blue. And by just squeezing out this thirsty brush, which is why you want a natural hair brush, I can pull up some of that blue. And I can add back in. I'm about out of orange. I could add back in a little more orange. Okay, that's about right. So in the case of, let's say you're doing a building, you're going to work on this mixture in here, and you're going to test it on something until you get the right color mixture. Here, I'm just testing it right out here in front of you. Okay, again, that one will have to have the shadow worked on. Okay, now this one. This one is almost kind of a pinkish red. And I don't have anything that is, well, I do. Let's see. I suppose I could add a little rose to it. Well, I've already got a mixture that I used. I'm going to stick with this mixture. But I could have made this a little bit pinker. And what I did with that mixture to weaken it a little bit was I used a little bit of Naples yellow. And that was because it adds some opacity and dulls it a little more like this. This is Cheap Joe's Naples yellow, which has a lot of actual yellow in it. Some of the others look like they're more made for doing skin color or something. Okay, so let's see what this does. So see, that turns that corner. I need enough value change that you feel that these are flat surfaces, and you get that going around the corner deal. So I'm going to get this, let's see. Yeah, I'll get this one dry and then we'll add color there. I think I'll just try more gray on this. And I would actually be using this same red to make the gray. Now there's a very dirty pink. I wonder what that would do. I actually don't know. Let's try it out. See, this is why you should do swatches. Yeah, this is working really well on this. This is pretty convincing. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you feel like a nut and sometimes you don't. So you can see that I've mixed my mixture a little bit thin, so I keep adding a lot more water here. And then what happens is I go over there and blow dry it because instead of letting it set, and then I wind up with this mess. So I think I'm going to pull this out this way. Maybe I'll pull a little more blue in that gray and kind of do, well, wait a minute. This shadow is supposed to be on a white background. So that really isn't very convincing at all. Because the shadow wouldn't be that dark. Still, that shadow's got quite a bit of drama in it, doesn't it? I mean, it's too dark, but it doesn't look much too dark. So when that's dry, I suspect that I would add a little more shadow on this. But I know not to mess with it anymore right now. I can go in here with my... Oh, no, that's terrible. I need to stop messing with it. Okay, don't do what I do. Do what I say. That's pretty close already to what I need. I don't like... See where I got the red in here and then the shadow. I should have done that separately instead of trying to rush it. Yeah, it's just going to look bad there. That could get just a little bit darker. Here I go messing with it again. Okay, that's too much, I think. So one of the things that's happening is that the gray is working a whole lot better on the red than it like did on the yellow or whatever. Okay, I think that one's actually pretty successful in spite of, bad brushwork here. So when you do this, don't rush it. Let them sit. So I'm going to call that one a finished item. Well, it's not dry yet, but that's a finished item. This is a pretty strong shadow, but it's kept enough of the sense of red in it that it works. Let's see, so we were doing this, and really the only thing we didn't have was a shadow. Probably. Let's just glaze in. So you could do this wet and wet, or you could do layers of glaze in a shadow. As long as the shadow's not too complex. I like, there would be a little bit of reflected light from the color in the shadow. It wouldn't be this strong, but pretty is better than real. I've got enough of reality already. Okay, let's see where we were here. Okay. So I had said that this shadow actually has a little bit of red in it. I think I could take a pale bit of red here. And pull some gray into it. That's, what? This needs a stronger shadow. That's too weak. Also, remember, your shadow depends also on the color of what it's cast on. So for the most part, you're dealing with the same situation when you're mixing your shadow colors for what it goes on. In other words, if I've got a brown table, then I've got to mix a shadow that's compatible with that brown table. Or if I have green grass, I've got to mix a shadow that's compatible. That is, it's got to be a deeper green, but it's got to be a duller green. I think this needs a little blue in it. That one's not too bad. I'm not going to hold it up yet because the shadow's pretty wet. Let's see. Don't I have a yellow one around here somewhere? Oh, yeah. So I've got a yellow one over here, and the yellow one pretty much worked, except it's screwed up, smudgy. But dark yellow is still not normally very dark. Cadmium yellow is not very dark. Okay, so we've got this, and this is already working. It's already dark enough. So I need I guess a gray shadow. And I've got a little bit of red into this. Remember, that's how I shadowed it. And so this mixture I have right here has got a little bit of a red. It's a little bit of red to the gray. Okay, it needs some green in there, doesn't it? So I'm going to do this correctly this time, just to show y'all that I can. By the way, this looks like it has a handle on it, doesn't it? That's where I sprayed the drip. Okay, so I'm going to get that dry, and then we're going to pull a little bit of the green into this. Because along with everything else, even though maybe you wouldn't see much green in the light, I mean in the shadow, that helps you make a transition between this and this. Transitions are extremely important in my opinion. Okay, so let's remix a little bit of that green, because I've kind of killed that, what I've got in my dish here. Okay. That was mostly cadmium yellow light. I don't know whether it's called cadmium yellow light or cadmium yellow pale. It's the same, whichever one a label says. And a little bit of cerulean. Well, a little more than that, I guess. There. That's about the color. Oh, let's see, I did dry that, yeah. So we just float a little of that in here. See, I've got that light lowered from the side, so I get more light like this. So we can just float a little glazed tint over that. See, and the best way is to start it stronger out here, and it's going to fade as you go out. So this would be the way to handle it, if that's what you wanted to do. This color right here is similar to this over here. So that has a real nice feel to it, and you have a real nice sense of this being a geometric shape. Okay, that's all of them. Now I'm going to photograph this and text it out to you.